Hunger in the neon streets. The city of Zalon 5 never slept. Tall silver towers touched the clouds and flying vehicles zoomed through glowing sky roads. Neon lights flashed across the streets, making the ground look like it was on fire. But no one looked down. No one saw her. A small alien girl, no taller than a chair, stumbled through the crowd. Her skin was light blue and her eyes were too big for her face. She wore a torn gray cloth, not even a real dress. Her bare feet were cracked and bleeding. People walked past her without a second glance. She hadn't eaten in 3 days. Her thin arms shook as she reached into a trash bin, pulling out a half-eaten fruit. Before she could bite it, a man in a glowing uniform slapped it from her hand. "Filthy orphan," he said coldly. "Go crawl back to the slums." The girl didn't fight back. She just picked up the fruit again and walked away. Her name had been lost when her parents left her at the city gate. Some said she was broken. Others whispered she came from a cursed bloodline. She didn't know what any of that meant. All she knew was that her stomach hurt, her bones ached, and the world didn't care. The air smelled like oil and smoke. Music played from the shops, but none of it was for her. She passed by food stalls, the smell of cooked meat making her dizzy. Her feet dragged as she walked into an alley to hide. Her small body leaned against a dirty wall. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes. "Maybe I'll sleep," she thought. Just a little. But sleep didn't come. Instead, the cold night crept in. Her body started shaking and her hands turned pale. Suddenly, she heard a loud crash. A trash bin had been knocked over. She jumped. A group of young alien boys stood at the alley's entrance. They laughed when they saw her. "Hey, look, it's the little freak again. She's still alive? She eats garbage." The girl didn't respond. She just looked down. One of the boys picked up a broken bottle and stepped closer. "Want to cry again, freak?" She curled into a ball, but the blow never came. "Hey!" The voice was loud, rough, and human. The boys turned and saw an old man standing there. He had a long gray beard, a wrinkled face, and carried a toolbox in one hand. His coat was old, patched with wires and fabric, but he stood firm. "Leave her alone," the man shouted. The boys laughed nervously. "What's it to you, old man?" The old man stepped forward. His eyes burned like fire. "Last chance." The boys backed away. One spit on the ground. "She's not even your kind." "She's a child," the man growled. "And you're cowards." The boys ran off, disappearing into the neon mist. The old man looked down at the girl. She was shaking harder now, too scared to move, her eyes wide, full of fear and hunger. He knelt beside her. "It's okay, kid. I won't hurt you." She didn't speak. She didn't even blink. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small warm bread roll. He broke it in half and held it out. She stared at it like it was magic. "You hungry?" he asked. She didn't answer, but her hand slowly moved forward. She took the bread, her fingers trembling. She bit into it like a wild animal. She chewed fast, as if someone might take it away. "Easy, easy," the man said gently. "There's more where that came from." She looked at him now. Really looked. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. "What's your name?" he asked. She shook her head. "No name?" he asked softly. She looked down. "All right, we'll figure something out. Come with me." She froze. "I have soup," he added, with a small smile. "And a blanket." For a moment the girl didn't move. Then slowly she stood up. Her legs wobbled. The man reached out to hold her, but she pulled away. Okay, he said. "No touching. Got it." They walked, side by side, into the city lights. She stayed close, but never too close. As they passed the corner, a hidden camera followed them. A red light blinked. Far away, in a dark control room, someone zoomed in on her face. "She survived," a voice said. "After all this time." The screen went black. The human with no one. The door creaked open as the old man led the girl inside. His home was small, tucked away at the edge of a repair yard. It smelled of warm oil, metal dust, and something she hadn't smelled in a long time. Safety. The girl stepped in slowly, her eyes scanning everything. Machines lined the walls. A glowing engine core hummed gently in the corner. An old hollow screen buzzed with static. She stood in the doorway, still unsure. "I won't lock the door," the man said, walking to a cabinet. "If you want to leave, you can, but maybe eat something first." She didn't move. He placed a steaming bowl of soup on a nearby table. Its smell filled the room, spices, warmth, and real vegetables. Her stomach growled. "Sit if you want," he said, then walked to the other side of the room and began fixing a damaged drone arm. The girl stared at the bowl. After a moment, she stepped forward, quiet, like a shadow. She picked up the spoon and began to eat slowly. Each bite was like life returning to her. The old man didn't watch her. He just kept working. "Name's Harold," he said, voice soft, but deep. "I used to fix ships. Now I just fix junk." The girl said nothing. He sighed. "Had a daughter once. She would have been your age, if she made it through the wars." His voice cracked slightly, but he kept his eyes on the machine. The girl's spoon paused. She looked at him, just for a second, then returned to the soup. "You don't talk, huh?" he asked gently. She stayed silent. "That's all right. You don't have to." Hours passed. She finished her soup and sat quietly by the heater, curled up like a small animal. Harold placed a folded blanket near her. "I'll sleep in the chair. You take the bed." She didn't move. "It's clean, I swear," he chuckled, sitting down and closing his eyes. But she didn't sleep. She watched him from the corner. Every breath he took, every twitch of his fingers, she watched it all, ready to run if needed. But the man didn't move. He snored softly. For the first time in many cycles, the girl let herself relax just a little. Her head rested on the folded blanket. Her eyes closed just for a moment. Then something strange happened. A dream. She saw flashes of fire, metal, screaming, her family shouting her name. Then darkness. She woke up with a scream caught in her throat, but she didn't scream. She sat up quickly, sweating. Her breath was sharp, short. Harold was already awake, watching her from his chair. "Nightmares?" he asked gently. She nodded once. He looked down. "Yeah, me too." The next morning, Harold handed her a piece of chalk. He pointed to the wall. "If you don't want to speak, maybe write?" She stared at the chalk, confused. "It's okay. No pressure." He smiled. "Just trying to understand you." She reached out and slowly took it. Then, she walked to the wall and drew something unexpected, a symbol, one that looked like a glowing tree with roots made of stars. She finished it in seconds, perfectly shaped, every line exact. Harold froze. He stood and walked over, looking at the symbol. "I've seen this before," he whispered. "In a secret file from the war, alien royalty, psychic bloodline, wiped out." He looked at the girl, stunned. Who are you, really?" She looked up at him, eyes wide. Then outside, a small mechanical insect flew past the window. Its red eye blinked once and vanished into the sky. Harold didn't notice. But the girl did. She pointed. "What is it?" he asked, walking to the window. He saw nothing. But far above, in a hidden room in the upper levels of Zalon 5, a woman in black armor watched the screen. "Target found," she said coldly. "Send a drone team, and alert the High Council." The screen zoomed in on Harold's house. She was supposed to be dead. A silent bond begins. The sky over Zalon 5 was filled with steel clouds, glowing with silent thunder. But inside Harold's little home, the only sound was the hum of an old tea kettle. The girl sat by the window, her small hands holding a half-broken toy drone Harold gave her. She didn't know how to fix it, but she watched him do it every day. Maybe she'd learn. Harold sipped his tea and watched her from the corner of his eye. She still hadn't spoken, not a single word. But things were changing, slowly. She ate her meals without fear now. She didn't flinch when Harold entered the room, and sometimes, just for a second, she smiled. He didn't ask for more. In the evenings, he would fix scrap machines and she would sit near the heater, copying his movements with small tools and metal pieces. He let her. But one morning, something strange happened. Harold had gone to the market for parts. The girl stayed behind. As she cleaned the floor with a small cloth, the old hollow screen on the wall turned on, by itself. The screen glitched, then flashed a deep red symbol, the same tree star design she had drawn before. A robotic voice echoed. Bloodline confirmed. Subject alive. Initiate retrieval. Her eyes widened. The screen went black. She stood frozen for a long time. Then the door opened. Harold stepped in carrying a sack of food. Hey kid, I got your favorite, that blue fruit thing. Don't ask what it's made of. He paused when he saw her standing stiff, face pale. What's wrong? She pointed to the screen. It was off. Harold looked confused. Did it turn on again? That thing's been dead for years. She nodded slowly. Harold placed the bag down and walked over. He touched the screen. Cold. I'll take a look at it later, he muttered. Maybe just a power surge. But his tone had changed. He was hiding worry. That night, as Harold repaired an old hover cart, he finally spoke. You don't have to tell me who you are, he said softly. But I know someone's looking for you. And I think you're in danger. The girl stared at him. I can send you away far from here, he continued, but I don't want to. She tilted her head. You remind me of my daughter, he said, not looking at her. She used to sit beside me just like this, silent, curious, strong. He handed her a screwdriver. Here, hold it. She took it. Their hands touched briefly. It was the first time she didn't pull away. That night she didn't sleep in the corner. She climbed into the bed without waiting for Harold to offer. He watched her quietly and smiled, but he didn't know. Outside, something moved. A small surveillance bot hovered by the window, silently recording. Far away, inside a military base, carved into the cliffs of Zalon 5, a council of alien generals stared at a 3D image of the girl. She's alive, one growled. Impossible. Royal blood. Psychic. She cannot remain unguarded. Kill the human and extract the subject. Too loud, another interrupted. Do it quietly. They nodded. Back in the house, Harold turned off the lights. The girl whispered her first word. Papa. Harold looked up, stunned. What? Did you say? She blushed and turned her face away. He walked over slowly, heart pounding. You can speak? She nodded once. He smiled, eyes full of warmth. You called me Papa? She nodded again, this time with a small smile. He knelt and hugged her gently. You have no idea what that means to me. Neither of them knew the danger getting closer. But for now, inside that tiny home, under the silent sky, a bond stronger than blood had begun. The truth in her blood, the morning was quiet. Too quiet. Harold sat at his desk, studying a strange energy chip he had found near the market. The girl, now a little more relaxed in his presence, sat nearby drawing circles on the dusty floor with a broken gear. Suddenly, Harold's old scanner blinked blue, a soft beep. It hadn't worked in years. He leaned closer. The screen flickered, showing the words, Unknown genetic marker detected. Harold blinked. That can't be right. He grabbed a small medical tool from his drawer, something left over from the old wars. Hey kid, he said gently. Can I check your finger? Just a tiny prick. I won't hurt you. She stared at the needle, then nodded. He pricked her finger. A single drop of glowing violet-colored blood came out. Harold's hands froze. Human blood didn't glow, and not like that. He rushed to the scanner, dropped the sample in, and waited. Processing. Then the screen flashed a result that made his skin go cold. Royal lineage confirmed. House Vale Rin alert level, Omega class. Asset detected priority. Secure or eliminate. Harold backed away. House Vale Rin, he whispered. That's not just alien nobility. That's the bloodline the coalition tried to wipe out. He looked at the girl. She looked back, calm. Too calm. Do you know who you are? He asked. She walked over to him slowly and pointed at the glowing scanner. Then she pointed at her chest. I'm not supposed to be alive, she said softly. They threw me away because I was born too weak, too quiet. Harold stared, mouth slightly open. You remember? I remember everything. Her voice was small but steady. My family left me at the gate. Said I'd ruin them. Said the humans would kill us if they found out I lived. Harold shook his head, trying to process the truth. No one's going to hurt you while I'm breathing, kid. But they're coming, she whispered. How do you know? She pointed to her head. I hear them. In the dark. I always hear them. Harold felt his heart tighten. You're psychic, aren't you? She nodded. Suddenly, the power in the house flickered. The lights went out. The heater stopped. The scanner died. Outside, the sky darkened. Not from clouds, but from a large, silent ship slowly floating above the city block. Damn it. Harold cursed. He grabbed an old pulse rifle from under the bed. They found you. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just held his coat. I'm sorry, she whispered. Harold looked down at her. No, don't be sorry. I should have known. Doesn't matter who you are. You're still just a little girl. And you're mine now. A loud knock echoed at the door. Then another. Then boom! The whole wall shook. Harold ran to a secret panel in the floor. We go underground. She hesitated. Trust me, he shouted. She nodded and jumped in. He followed and sealed the hatch above them just as the front door exploded. From the shadows above, black-armored soldiers stormed into the home. Target not in sight. Begin heat scan. But the underground was shielded. For now, they were invisible. Down below, in a hidden workshop lit by a single lamp, Harold and the girl sat breathing fast. Machines and tools were everywhere. In one corner, a small hover bike stood half-finished. Harold took her hand. Listen, you're not just a child anymore. You're something more, something powerful. But they fear that power. Why? She asked softly. Because they can't control it. She looked up at him, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. I don't want to hurt anyone. You won't, Harold said. But if they make us fight, we'll fight together. Above them, the search team activated a scanning drone. Below, the girl touched the scanner chip again and it blinked back to life. Papa, she said, her voice steady. I'm ready to protect you now. They came for her. A sharp blast shook the ground above. Dust rained from the ceiling of Harold's underground workshop. The girl flinched, but Harold stayed calm. He grabbed a rusty comm link and pressed it. Unit No 9, respond. Static. He tried again. Still nothing. They've jammed the signal, he muttered. The girl looked up at him. They're getting closer. Harold nodded. We've got maybe 5 minutes. He reached into an old locker and pulled out something strange. A worn-out exosuit. It was patched with wires and smelled of old oil and battles long forgotten. Time to bring out the bad memories, he muttered, pulling it on piece by piece. The girl tilted her head. You used to fight? Harold didn't look at her. Long time ago. Before I lost everything. He finally looked down at her. But now I've got something to fight for again. Suddenly a hidden screen blinked to life, showing thermal shadows moving through the house above. 4 soldiers. Heavily armed, Harold said. The girl's eyes glowed faintly. They're not alone. What do you mean? She pointed, at the far end of the workshop. There's another, behind that wall. Harold turned sharply. He picked up a heat tool and burned open the metal panel. Smoke hissed as the wall gave way, and sure enough, a fifth soldier crouched there, weapon drawn. But before the soldier could react, the girl raised her hand. The air shimmered and the man collapsed, frozen in place. Harold stared, stunned. He's asleep, she whispered. He won't wake up for hours. Remind me not to get on your bad side, Harold said, half joking. Suddenly, the floor above exploded. Metal cracked. A heavy object crashed through, the roof of a black drop pod. 2 armored soldiers dropped in, aiming plasma rifles. Target sighted. Harold grabbed his pulse rifle and fired first. 1 soldier flew back, crashing into a pipe. Sparks flew. The girl stood still, her body glowing faintly. As the second soldier raised his rifle, it suddenly shattered in his hands, crushed by invisible force. He screamed and fell. But more were coming. Harold looked around. We can't hold this place, we need to run. He pulled a tarp off the hoverbike. It coughed as he turned it on, but the engine glowed blue. He looked at her. Can you ride? She nodded. Good, because I need you to drive. She blinked. Me? He tossed her a control glove. Your brain moves faster than mine, and I trust you. She caught the glove and slid it on. Then, from above, a voice thundered through a loudspeaker. Surrender the asset or this entire block will be cleansed. Harold gritted his teeth. Not happening. He helped her onto the bike, then jumped on behind her. Hit the core, full thrust. She closed her eyes and whispered something in a strange alien language. The bike roared, then burst forward, straight through the workshop wall and into the sewer tunnels beyond. The soldiers chased them, firing. Lasers hit the walls. Water exploded around them. But the girl didn't flinch. She guided the bike through, every twist and turn with strange, perfect instinct. How are you doing that? Harold shouted. I don't know, she said. It's like the city is talking to me. Harold laughed, despite the danger. Then keep listening, kid. Behind them, an enemy drone sped into the tunnel. It locked on and fired a red beam. The girl spun the bike, sending it up a curved pipe wall. The laser missed, hitting the roof instead. She clenched her fist. The drone suddenly twisted in the air, as if crushed by a giant hand, then dropped into the water. They shot out of the tunnel exit, landing on a quiet cliff road outside the city. The bike rolled to a stop. Smoke rose from the engine. They were safe for now. Harold jumped off and looked back. You did good. The girl looked up at him. I heard something. In the tunnel. What did you hear? Not a sound. A feeling. What kind of feeling? She turned toward the stars. Someone powerful. Watching. Harold tensed. Back in the city, deep inside a command center, a cloaked figure sat watching them through a screen. She's stronger than we thought, the figure said. An aide nodded. She's becoming what her ancestors feared. Good, the figure replied. Let her grow, and when she's ready, the screen went black. The choice to fight. The stars above were cold and still, but the fire inside her had begun to rise. They had stopped at an old human war outpost, abandoned for years, hidden deep in the mountains. Rust covered the steel doors, and vines had taken back the walls, but the power grid still flickered when Harold worked his magic. The girl stood at the edge of the cliff, staring at the glowing city far below. Her long robe danced in the wind. They'll come again, she said quietly. And next time they won't miss. Harold walked up behind her, his tools hanging from his belt. Then we don't let them win. She looked at him. Why are you helping me, really? Harold sat on a rock beside her. Because someone once helped me when I had nothing, and because you're family now. The girl looked down. But I'm not human. Harold smiled. Doesn't matter. You're mine. For a moment, silence sat between them. Then she whispered, I don't want to keep running. Harold looked at her carefully. Then what do you want? She turned to face him, her violet eyes glowing softly. I want to fight. Harold raised an eyebrow. You sure? I'm tired of being weak, tired of hiding. If they want to erase me, they'll have to try harder. Harold chuckled. Spoken like a true warrior. They went inside the base. The dusty lights flickered on, one by one. In the armory, Harold opened a sealed crate. Inside were faded blue uniforms with human military symbols. There were weapons, armor pieces, and old medals. This was my squad's base, he said. We were called the Iron Ghosts. Most of us didn't make it back. The girl touched a cracked helmet. Will they help us? They're gone, kid, Harold said, his voice heavy. But maybe their spirit still walks with us. She nodded slowly. He handed her a training glove. Time to see what else your mind can do. They trained for hours. Harold showed her how to use basic weapons. Not to kill, but to defend. She was fast, faster than any child should be, but her true power was in her mind. She could move small objects without touching them. She could feel danger seconds before it arrived. And she could hear thoughts, not words, but emotions, like whispers in the wind. By nightfall, she had pushed herself too hard. She collapsed on the floor, breathing fast. Harold rushed to her. Easy. That's enough for today. She looked up at him. I'm not strong enough yet. He placed a hand on her shoulder. You don't have to be today. She hesitated, then said, I want a name. Harold blinked. A name? She nodded. You gave me food, home, safety. But I want a name of my own. Harold smiled gently. Then I'll give you one. He thought for a moment, then said softly, Lyra. She repeated it. Lyra. He nodded. It's the name of a star, one that never stops shining no matter how dark the sky gets. Lyra smiled for the first time, truly smiled. Suddenly, a warning light blinked on the wall. Motion detected, Harold said. He checked the camera. 3 ships incoming, no flags, black hulls, same bastards. Lyra stood up. Do we run? She asked. Harold looked at her, then at the gun locker. No, he said. This time we stand. He activated the base's defense grid. Old turrets hissed to life. Drones floated up from the floor. Shield walls glowed blue. He handed Lyra a comlink. You take the high tower, you'll see everything from there. Stay sharp. Lyra nodded and ran off. As Harold prepared the main gate, he paused. He looked up at the dusty banner of the Iron Ghosts and whispered, Let's make some noise. From the sky, the enemy ships landed with a heavy blast. Dust and fire filled. The air black-armored soldiers marched forward. Target inside, one of them said. This time, no survivors. But they didn't know who they were facing anymore. They didn't know the girl had made her choice. She wasn't running. She was rising. A new family. A new future smoke rolled across the mountain cliffs as the enemy ships landed. Their black hulls reflected no light. Silent doors opened and rows of armored soldiers marched out, each one bred for obedience, not mercy. Above them, the outpost stood like an old ghost refusing to die. And inside it, Lyra stood tall in the tower window, wind pulling at her clothes, eyes glowing like twin stars. Down below, Harold loaded his last pulse cartridge into a vintage turret. Let them come, he growled. A voice crackled over the enemy comms. Bring the girl. Kill the human. But this time, Lyra didn't hide. She stepped forward, raised both hands, and the air hummed. Dozens of metallic tools, broken machines, and power cells lifted from the ground around her. They floated like a storm waiting to break. The first wave of soldiers charged. Harold fired the turret. Energy blasts ripped through the dust. Explosions shook the cliffs. The girl stood still, her mind reaching farther than before. She didn't want to hurt, but she had to protect. Her power surged. Metal tore from the enemy's weapons. Shields cracked. One by one they fell. Not dead, but paralyzed. Trapped in a stasis field she summoned with her will. Still more came. Harold's gun overheated. He ducked as plasma shots exploded near him. I could use a miracle right now, he shouted. Suddenly the cliff shook, and the sky lit up. Another ship appeared, But this one was old, patched with blue and red panels. Its symbol, a white gear wrapped in wings. Harold gasped. That's impossible. The comm crackled. This is Commander Juno of the Iron Ghosts. Heard one of our own needed backup. The old squad, long believed lost, had returned. Their ship opened fire on the enemy ranks, blasting their support craft and scattering troops. Inside the base, Lyra closed her eyes. Her mind connected with every machine, every signal, every living heartbeat. She reached into the sky and stopped the last enemy ship in midair. It floated, frozen, then gently lowered to the ground. The soldiers inside ran, dropping their weapons in fear. A silence followed. Then Harold stepped out of the bunker, coughing, limping, burned, but smiling. He looked up at Lyra. She ran to him. "I didn't let them hurt you," she said. He dropped to one knee and hugged her tightly. "No, sweetheart, you saved all of us." Commander Juno approached, helmet off. Her eyes were tired but kind. "This the girl?" she asked. Harold nodded. "She's not a weapon," he said. "She's a child, a survivor." Lyra looked at Juno. "I don't want to fight anymore." "You won't have to," Juno replied. "Not unless you choose to." Lyra stepped forward and pointed to the broken flag of the Iron Ghosts hanging nearby. "Can I join?" she asked. Juno smiled. "You already did, kid." Later that night, the fire crackled in the center of the base as the Iron Ghosts shared old stories. Harold sat on a bench holding a cup of warm tea. Lyra leaned against him, her eyes half closed. "You okay, Lyra?" She nodded. "Just tired. You've earned some rest." She looked up at him. "Will you always be my papa?" Harold smiled and pulled her close. "Until the stars go out." The stars above blinked softly like they were listening, and somewhere in the dark, the universe whispered a new beginning. The end.